The Hasselblad XPan, what can you say about it? For many, it's the goat of all cameras. It's been high on my list of cameras I wanted since I basically first saw a video about it years ago on DP Review TV. And even back then, it was pricey, but at least affordable. Since then, prices of XPans and Fuji TXs have gone through the roof. This is not helped by the fact that they only made about 17,000 of the original XPan ones, and that they do have a habit of breaking, and when they break, you can't get them repaired. Hasselblad stopped repairing them many years ago, and there's only a few repairers throughout the world that will even touch XPan, many of which have a backlog of 6-12 months. So realistically, I felt that there's probably very little chance that I'd ever actually own an XPan. That was until about 6 months ago. I was going for my daily run, and I managed to run past an auction house here in Melbourne. And in the window, they had a gold Hasselblad. They had a variety of Leica 1s, 2s, and collectibles. And they had not one, but 2 Hasselblad XPans. How did this happen? Well, for many of you that aren't in the Southern Hemisphere, you might not have heard of a place called Michael's Camera Video. Michael's Camera Store was open for a very long period of time, and it also had a museum. And the collection that Michael's had built up over the years was probably the most thorough collection of cameras in the Southern Hemisphere. They had everything from Apollo moon cameras, they had gold Hasselblads, they had pretty much one of every camera that you could possibly imagine, and a variety of incredibly rare ones. Unfortunately, after COVID hit, they went into trouble and they shut down. They tried to keep the museum running for a short period of time, but eventually that was wrapped up, and the Michaels family decided to auction off the entire library of cameras. For me personally, that meant something, because my very first real camera, Nikon EM, I remember getting second-hand from cameras, Michaels cameras, when I was about 13. My father took me into the city, and I stared lovingly at this camera with a motor winder, and I thought, yeah, that's the camera I want. Bought it, and then had to wait for 2 months before Christmas to actually get the camera. So being able to have a camera from Michael's library, that alone meant a lot. Being able to have a Hasselblad XPan from Michael's camera, that was something I just couldn't pass up. So I logged on and saw that the auction day was coming up in about a week's time, but they had early bidding. So I bid a fair amount of money, what I thought was reasonable, that I could actually afford, and then proceeded to forget about it. The day of the auction happened, I was at work, and then I got a ping that I had won the auction for basically my bid amount, which was high, but it was something I could stomach fairly. That was until I found out that regular auctions aren't like eBay auctions. You pay, there's the hammer price, which is what I bid, but you also pay 20% on top of that to the auction house. So my painful yet affordable Hasselblad XPan became a very expensive XPan to me. Still cheaper than a lot of XPans available, and it was in spectacular condition. There's almost none of the paint has been marked or has come off the camera, and so I was moderately happy with my purchase, apart from the fact that my bank account was now empty. And so here it is, my Hasselblad XPan with the stock standard 45mm lens. Interestingly, there's a feature with the XPans where if you hold down the AEB button on the back and then turn the camera on, you get a number, and that multiplied by 10 gives you your shutter actuations. So in looking at this camera, it has shot approximately 200 rolls of film, which is not too bad considering. I immediately decided that the 45 was a great lens, but I also wanted to have the other two lenses. There's a 90mm and a 35mm. I managed to acquire this Fuji version. Fuji actually made all of the lenses for Hasselblad. Hasselblad just painted theirs black to match the camera, whereas Fuji went with the titanium coating, or titanium color. So I've got the Fuji 90mm, and then you've got the 35. Now, anybody who knows anything about Hasselblad XPans knows that 35s are incredibly expensive and somewhat rare. And so I pretty much decided, well, chances are I probably won't ever get the 35mm. Didn't bother me too much. I mean, I do like to have the set of anything that's available, but considering the 45 is a really nice lens, I was happy with that. And so I took it out on my first little shoot to see how it went. So I put some Kodak Pro Image 100 in it and went out on a walk through the city to shoot some photos. Now, the photos turned out incredibly well. I was really happy with them. And the only thing I did notice, which was purely on me, is that you have to be exceptionally careful with keeping your camera level. Even the slightest amount of tilt either way, and it is very noticeable on negative. Unlike regular 35mm cameras where you can really get it a little bit wrong and fix it in Lightroom with a very small adjustment, anything that's slightly off on a panoramic image is very noticeable, and to adjust it in Lightroom means you are cropping out a large portion of your image. So I'd say probably 2/3 of my images were off from straight, and so I definitely made a mental note that I should be aware of that in the future. As I often do, I was browsing the internet, and one night I thought, I wonder if it's possible to adapt other lenses, maybe some of my Leica R lenses, or some of my Nikon lenses or something like that, to the Hasselblad. Now, the Hasselblad's a weird beast. It shoots 35mm film, but because of the width of the image, in terms of width, it's almost a medium format camera. As such, the lenses that Hasselblad uses, whilst they are small and lightweight and look like 35mm lenses, they're effectively actually medium format lenses. You can see this most noticeably by the maximum aperture, which for the 45 and the 90 is f4. Because they need to get the width of the frame, the image circle needs to fill that. What that means is a large number of, basically all 35mm lenses don't have that width of image circle. And so really, even if you could adapt a lens, it wouldn't really work. There is a tilt-shift Nikon lens. I think it's a 35mm Nikon lens that you can use. I think Grainy Days has one of those. But it still crops vignettes a little bit, and realistically, by the time you crop it, it's getting close to the 45 again. Then, scrolling through, I found that there was an adapter for adapting Leica R lenses. And for $30, I figured it'll be an interesting experiment, if nothing else. So I ordered one of the little adapters, and it arrived in the mail, and I thought I'd give it a go. Now I have 3 R lenses that go with my R8. This one is a 28 to 70. It's a variable aperture though, so I don't use it that often. It's 3.5 to 4.5, 28 to 70. And I also have what is this one again? It's a 70 to 210 mil. And then I've also got a 35 to 70 constant aperture, which is actually on my camera body. So I thought I'd give it a go and see what happens. The first step was trying to figure out a way that I can see the actual image circle and actually get an idea. Now, I could just run a roll of film through the camera, but I wanted to sort of be a little bit more precise about it. So using my newfound skill of making ground glass after my large format camera experiment, I created a tiny little ground glass that fit the Hasselblad's back of the film plate. And that way I could attach that with some tape, painter's tape, and turning the camera in bulb mode, I was able to actually see the image that was going to be hitting the silver fine and thus see how much vignetting I was getting. So here we go, and you'll see some results here. So first off, here is what the standard kit lens, the 45mm lens, sees. As you can see, there is a little bit of vignetting even on the Hasselblad supplied 45mm kit lens. There is a circular polarizer that is available for this and the 30mm. They are exceptionally expensive if you can find them, basically made of unobtainium. But in my results when I was shooting with the camera with my first roll of film, I didn't really notice the vignetting in the images, so probably it's not a big issue, but it's still of note. So then I decided to plunge on and attach the 28 to 70. So I'll go through a couple of steps in the lens. Here you'll see 28mm. And then if I zoom in a little bit, you can see the edge of frame where the vignetting is happening. Quite noticeable. Here's 35. And at 70, the vignetting is just about gone. So that is one way of getting a 70mm lens for a Hasselblad XPan that is actually usable. Now, the lens isn't rangefinder coupled. However, realistically, I feel that zone focusing is not too much of a problem with the XPan. In my very limited experience, most of the shots done setting up or shooting, I'm at infinity anyway. And with an f-stop of, well, in this particular lens, this one would do 3.5. But even at 3.5, zone focusing is too much of a mature. But I wasn't done there. I thought, well, okay, why not actually run some film through it? So I ran a roll of portrait through it, and here are the results. Here we are at 28, with a full vignette, and here it is cropped. Here's 35 with a vignette, and here it's cropped. And here's 70, and here it's cropped. So I really think the takeaway from it is if you really find that you've got an XPan and you're one of the lucky 16,000 or so people who have access to an XPan, and you like the 45 and you like the 90, but you need something in between, then a 70mm Leica R lens is somewhat of a viable option. That being said, I don't know how often I'll be connecting this to the Hasselblad. So after having a bit of a play around with the XPan with a variety of lenses, I took it out on another photo walk and shot some more images, once again on this Kodak Pro 100. I really love this stock. It's kind of slightly cheaper than Ektar, and yet it really gives a really nice finish grain, and it hints towards more to the Ektar colours than it does the portrait colours. I definitely found I was a lot more careful with the horizontal plane of the image, and had a lot more keepers that were correctly formatted and didn't require a lot of post-production to straighten them up. Getting the images back and reviewing them, seeing how shooting panorama with 35mm camera really is a very different beast to shooting with a regular, with something like my Leica M6, it got me to thinking. So I did a little experiment. Remember those images that you just looked at? Which ones of those stood out as being different? Which one of those looked maybe perhaps that they weren't shot on an XPan? Half of those images were actually shot on a Minolta piece, because in shooting the XPan and shooting a Minolta, I realised that unless you're actually printing these images, when they go up even on my TV, they're quite a large image size. The difference in picture quality is marginal at best. And to be honest, the difference in stock makes far more of a difference than it does the fact that the Minolta is a cropped 35mm frame versus the XPan, which is two 35mm frames. Significantly bigger image area on the XPan. However, what I realised was that the main difference for me was the shooting experience of shooting with a camera that has a panoramic view. The Minolta piece has that. This camera only shoots panoramic images, or cropped 35mm panoramic images, and so the eyepiece or the viewfinder is panoramic. It's an incredibly simple camera. It has basically no controls other than turning the flash off. And yet, I had similar amount of fun as I did with shooting with the XPan. This was a $100 camera. That was significantly more. And the images that I got out of both of these cameras, I got probably more keepers out of my roll from the Minolta than I did from the XPan. Now, admittedly, that could have been the day I was shooting. I was just having a good day. But I didn't look at the images from the Minolta and say, oh, they're terrible. I don't like those. I can see all of the image flaws and I can see the low resolution. And the XPan images were immediately gold because they came from such a high-end, expensive camera. I got keepers from both cameras. I enjoyed the process of shooting with both cameras. And so I think, for those of you who can get an XPan, great, get one. I wouldn't recommend them more. But for those of you who want the XPan experience, why not give something like the Minolta piece a go? You get the experience of looking through the eyepiece and seeing the true panoramic framing. You don't have to sort of imagine it and crop it in post. And you get the vast majority of the experience, significantly less cost. And in many situations, this is probably going in my bag before the XPan. This can go in my pocket. XPan can't. If this breaks, I can buy 10 of these and not even notice. This breaks, I break. So yeah, I think I do love the XPan, and I think it's an amazing camera, and I'm exceptionally lucky to have one. And I will be shooting a lot of rolls of film with it. However, what I didn't really expect was that this little throwaway camera, which I bought really on a whim, is probably going to get more use. So, till the next time, say hi to your dog for me.